Welcome back to Tavern Talk. I am DMDaddy Mike, and with me today, virtually, is my good friend and Maura Wolfscrye's familiar, Brad Giovanine.
Giovanni, Giovanni, yeah.
I'm from a partial Italian family, so I'm used to the multiple vowels kind of sounding exactly the same in multiple different languages. But
exactly.
welcome to the tavern. Welcome to the talk. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. I came prepared with a drink as well.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm like, we're in a tavern. I should be drinking.
I have my butt mug that I had when I drank tea here a little bit earlier. So
that's better.
But yes,
that's a better mug. Mine is like a Disney. It's like a Disney glass. So
what are you drinking?
It's something that I've penned the Electric Mule.
Okay.
It's kind of like I had a drink at a speakeasy. I'm in Chicago right now, and I had a drink at the speakeasy years ago. And the main ingredients are a shot of mezcal, a shot of Blanco tequila, a shot of Suze, which is like an aperitif, and that turns it this like yellowy color.
Oh.
And then ginger beer. So it's like a really sort of like a smoky Moscow Mule sort of vibe.
Are you like a big... No, this is going to sound terrible. Are you a big drinker? No, I mean, I meant like in terms
like a
of
mixologist or like in making cocktail.
Yeah,
I mean, I would say sort of. I have drinks that I enjoy making, and I love to cook and explore in the kitchen. So I think that's sort of just like the second arm of that interest is also enjoy making little cocktails.
I love that.
Yeah, but I don't have like a kit for it or anything. Which if I find something I like, I did figure this out on my own. Like I took the picture of the recipe that they were using, and so I have crafted myself. So it's
the closest I ever got was when I drank. There was There was a certain type of beer that you could mix with like orange juice or something like that.
Well, I'm probably like a Blue Moon or something because it has. It's like it's probably like that.
That was the extent of my mixology is like putting two drinks together. I was crazy.
Totally. Well, living on the edge.
I know. Well, thank you for coming in virtually from Chicago. Normally you're here in New York.
Yes.
And you're one of our newer players at the Goblin Guys table. You joined us partway through the stream, and I have to say, you and I had been talking over Instagram for quite some time, and I knew that you wanted to join. I think you had expressed wanting to join right before we like as people were like doing the group, and I was like, okay, I need everything to settle before I start adding people in.
And I believe like March.
Yeah, and you were still like slightly remote if you were not back in the fully back in the city yet. But yeah, I appreciate like you stood firm. You were like, I still want to do this, and it helped me like resolve any like issues of trying to chase people, because as a DM, I hate chasing my players. Now I don't have to do that a lot, thankfully. Like I've gotten to the point now where that voice in the back of my head is like, oh my God, no one's going to show up. I'm going to be the only one here. I'm going to be a fool. No, everyone consistently shows up every week. We are adults and we're talking about it. But you bring the excitement. Like I know that you want to play and that you're excited to play. So it's just like, it's a joy to at least have that energy at the table that you bring. So I wanted to say thank you for doing that, because it takes that extra like anxiety away from me every single time.
No, I have loved D&D. I mean, I think I told you when we had our first sort of discussion about me joining and kind of like what brought me to it. And because like obviously I've known what Dungeons and Dragons is my whole life. I was born in the 80s. Like it was, very much like I knew what it was. And then watching Bob the Drag Queen and Alaska and Jujubee and Monet playing years ago. I think the first season of Dungeons and Drag Queens was sometime like right after COVID, because I remember it was a while ago, but watching them, I was like, oh, so this is the shit. And their level of like enjoyment and discovery, like it was so addictive to me, and that made me want to play.
Yeah, that show in particular. I mean, like the term Dungeons and Drag Queens is just that low hanging fruit that it's like, of course, those two things should go together. It is like chocolate and peanut butter, because I love the idea of these over the top, charismatic people who don't know anything about the game to begin with, going in and having the the openness to learn, to act a fool,
and the
to be
courage.
the courage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I look for in my players. Like, I love someone who's played, for years and understands all the rules ins and outs. But the people who've only had a few years under their belt, or it's their first time playing, then I'm just like, oh, they're not bogged down by the rules or the expectations. They're still learning this, and it's fun to watch their character grow because I can see them. It's like Nathaniel's the perfect example where it's like I can see him fully realizing who Merrimack is while playing him. And it's just a joy to see. And I think you had played before, right? You had played D&D.
Yeah, like I played D&D before, minimally. Like, it's because, as you've mentioned, like, and it wasn't so much an issue of people not wanting to play, but like the other tables that I've been a part of, it's the scheduling thing. Like, we're all adults, like we have lives, and I'm also an actor, so like that, my friend group has a lot of actors in it. So like to coordinate those schedules, it's really tough. So yes, I'd played, but never as regularly as I do with you all, and it's that I love the regularity of it. Like, it's really really fun.
I pride myself on consistency because I like to be in bed by 10, regardless of my situation. So,
as we're old,
yes. But I guess that's a tip for all people who want to play D&D. Make sure your DM has a boring corporate job that requires him to be in the office from 9 to 5. And while he's doing the actual work, he's thinking in the back of his mind of being like, okay, how can I get these two characters to kiss tonight? And then, oh, surprise, what's the soap opera dramatic twist? They're twins, and they didn't realize that, whatever, that's what keeps me going during the day, is thinking about how I'm going to fuck with my players in the game later that evening. But yes, I knew that you had some experience, so I wasn't as concerned about like bringing you in like midway through. It was a bit of a concern because it'd be like, hey, I think they were like level 7 at the time, and it's an already established group. They know each other. They sort of knew each other at that point, but you took it and ran with it, and I'm very pleased with how you fit in. I'm sorry that you get to spend a lot of time with that group. You got a little bit of a flavor.
I know, they were great.
Yeah,
but listen, we can send each other mail. We'll send each other little notes, as for the new world building thing that we're talking about. Oh my God, hold on. Someone is literally calling me. It's spam. Okay, I'm going to hang up on them. I don't know. I get so many spam calls now. I don't know what's going on. Like, who sold my information?
You're famous
Elon.
You're famous on Goblin Guys. They're trying to get that car warranty.
But yeah, so no, it's funny that because yes, I have played before, but then I also, I like to have like a lot of, like being open to creativity and open to exploring and feeling like the improv of it all. But I also did think I knew the rules a little bit better than I actually do know them. And it's very funny because I think I said during the tournament of champions, which I call the tournament of all stars, I do feel like the jujube of the group because I'm like constantly like, I didn't know I could do that, and here we go, and all of a sudden now I like killed the monster myself without knowing that I could. So it's been a joy to discover what being a level 9 sorcerer is.
Yes. You know what? Narratively, it fits because at the end of the day, you're still learning how to use your powers. And so it makes sense that like you're not sure what your limits are. It's just funny that, an artificer, changeling, or a rogue human will be the one to teach you how to use your magic sometimes. Because they're the rule slayers. But no, you did great in the tournament. I think you came in third place, second place,
second place.
That's right. I forgot. You survived by the skin of your teeth. But yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
You were having a good time there. I think I wasn't sure who was going to win. Honestly, the thing that I've been noticing is just it's hard. It's hard to gauge whether or not my harebrained schemes are fun for other people. Like I don't know if it's going to work, let alone be fun. But I know it's always kind of a good session when people tell me they're shaking, and I'm like, okay, I've enacted some neural pathway to make them express some very strong emotion. So I'm glad that you at least expressed. I think it was you and Teo that were saying like, I can't stop shaking. This is too much. I'm like, ooh, good.
Yes.
And then what does that say
And
about
that's
me that likes to manipulate you guys that way?
Well, I was gonna say to your credit, like I think it also like you've really brought together a good group of people that because I love battling, like that's one of my favorite things to do in D&D. But the sessions that we haven't done a battle in, which does happen, all the time in D&D, or you're just an exploratory world building session, I have just as much fun because the group of people that are there at the table with me and you as the dungeon master, like it's really there's always like a lot of inventiveness going on, and it feels like a safe table too, which I think is also really important. Like if you don't
Yeah,
feel like you're safe to make these choices or to explore this decision or make this choice and go down this path, like that can really, I think, make a game feel really limiting. And
uh-huh.
it's never felt like that. So that's to your credit. It's
Good.
amazing.
I'm glad. Yeah, I think what I've learned is, I mean, I'm not an actor by trade by any stretch of the means, but I do recognize the collaborative nature of telling a story in so
Hmm.
much that everyone kind of has to share holding the stick at the same, like at different points. So long as everyone buys into that, then it can progress a lot easier. But it also helps that majority of the people at all of our tables have had some acting experience, if not are currently actors. So
Hmm.
I was wondering, in your experience, could you tell us a little bit about what your acting journey is, where you started, and kind of how that molds with your TTRPG role playing? Is kind of,
Yeah.
it feels like two very similar worlds, but different
Yeah.
mediums, different colors of the same medium, maybe.
They definitely can be. And so I've been acting since I was like a literal child. I started at like 10 years old. And I
So, like
was a member
5
of,
years ago, 6 years ago,
yeah, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Well, at least I'm legal. So like 8 years ago,
8 years
but
ago.
we
Okay.
we need to make sure that all the guys know that I'm legal. But
Yes.
yeah, this is not, we're not going to go there. But yeah, so I've been acting since I was a kid. Yeah, I've always loved it. And it was kind of, I've always been in the arts because I'm also a musician. And it was always this sort of discussion of whether I was going to be a professional musician or
Hmm.
a professional actor. And this also leads to the TTRPG games, is that like the thing that was the deciding factor was like as a musician, I'd be by myself practicing
Hmm.
all the time and, maybe performing with an ensemble here and there. But as an actor, the whole process is collaborative. Even sometimes the auditions, like, yeah, I'm rehearsing sort of by myself, but you're always in a room full of people. And that was what ultimately led me to want to pursue acting as a profession. So I think naturally, I want to be collaborative and I like to have input from other people. And um, so yeah, so I studied acting in college, and after school, I had like a, I guess I would say relative success, but I didn't make my Broadway debut until I was almost 30. So,
Mm.
which is, a lot of folks, it would drive them crazy, or they would have quit the industry by then. And so, um, that perseverance, and also during that time, I pivoted a little bit. That was another skill that I also think applies to D&D, because I started to do a lot of improv in
I
my
can
mid
tell.
20s. Yeah, like, and then that's really the D&D thing, is like the ability to improv and to yes and to
Hmm.
go with decisions. And maybe you have an idea for something, but someone else makes a different decision, and you just sort of have to be like, okay, this is what we're doing. And that's probably the skill that's obviously helps me with these types of games, but also in my acting career, because I just remember like the Brad, early 20s, who had a very set idea of like what I was going to do and XYZ and what the audition should go like. And then the accompanist would fuck up. And then my whole
Yeah.
audition would be derailed. And after doing, I went all the way through like the advanced levels of UCB training, and after doing all of that stuff, anything can really happen in the audition, on stage, for whatever. And it doesn't really throw me. Like it just sort of is like, all right, this is now part of the world that we're in. And
Yeah, that's what I've been learning in my, like, I've never taken improv in any sense of the word, but I'm doing improv not in the traditional sense of pulling out a voice or being a character, but improving while we play live from a technical standpoint is just like,
mhm,
we'll do it live, like very much in that sense of just like, if this happens, I just have to improv enough with the tools available to me to make something work. And if I get anything from this project, it is that it's just like that confidence of being able to take with what I have and take what I have in front of me and do the best that I can to build something that I'm happy with, I'm proud of, at the very least. And I can see that with the actors at the table too, where it's just like you're only given 15 minutes or so to be in the spotlight. And it's not like you're trying to steal it, but it's like you can draw focus and everyone can be like, what's that? What's she talking about? And I really do like that when you at least pull out the Maura voice. It feels very gentle and creepy.
The accent,
the
like
8 million people in my city, and somehow it's still impossible to find a cute nerd who wants to grab a drink. I can find a $700 parking spot. I can find a $30 green juice at midnight. But finding a gamer that knows what initiative means? Impossible. That's why there's Gamely, a queer-first app for people who love video games, board games, TTRPGs, and all things nerdy. Regular dating apps make gaming feel like a tiny footnote at the bottom of your profile, when we all know that someone's favorite games tells us the most about their profile. I don't just want to know your zodiac sign. I want to know your class, your alignment, your favorite cozy game, and whether you're emotionally stable enough to play Mario Kart without ruining the vibe. With Gamely, your next first date could be a D&D one-shot, a board game cafe, Stardew Valley co-op, barcade, or Mario Kart. So if you're queer, nerdy, cute, chaotic, lawful, neutral, or just looking for someone who won't make a weird face when you talk about your campaign, download Gamely today at gamelyapp.com/goblinguys and use code goblinguys for your first 3 months free. Gamely. Stop playing games and start playing games with someone special.
Although I feel like it's becoming a little bit more grounded and effective. It's less Dorit Madonna, and more like actually, because believe it or not, like for the folks who like now know that I am actually like I have studied accents and dialects. I just haven't used them in 20 years. So that's another muscle you gotta work on. But to your point of also the improv of it all, I think it's also just like being truthful. Like the decision that you make, as long as you're doing it how what your character would want to do, and in living it to the truth of the moment, the truth of the circumstances, like you're gonna get to where you ultimately, like if you had an idea of where you wanted the story to go, you'll probably get there by just remaining truthful to the environment.
I've been having a lot of trouble in like the actual acting and improvisation of my villains, in so much of embodying this excuse me embodying this asshole, for lack of a better term, and confronting my friends and being mean to them. And I don't want to do that. I know that sounds so silly, but like on our Monday stream yesterday, the Lanterns were confronted by one of their old foes that they left before they had been teleported. And he's very much the archetypal, like, noble lord who has too much power and wants to stay in power, doesn't really care who he hurts or what he does to do that. And, you said it, not me. But he's a little bit more charismatic and thoughtful, and just kind of like he has plans on plans on plans. And I spent the better part of like 20-25 minutes just being as mean as possible without like it was a combat experience, but through words. And I knew that like they knew that they were going to get out of that alive if they tried to fight him, because he's also a secret magic powerhouse, whatever. They knew that already, because like they couldn't win against him the last time they fought. But it was this, and he also was in their space, so he could very easily just blow up their house with their friends inside of it. So it was like narratively, I knew I kind of cornered them and forced them into that, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling of talking to each of them as if they were less than me. And I think that comes from this idea that like I don't like to think of that towards anyone, especially the people I care about. So to embody that, I'm like, I don't know if I'm like getting this across, if it's believable to them, because it does feel like I'm holding back in those moments.
I mean, for villains specifically, because I love villains. Like that is like, if I could, like an ultimate dream of mine would be to like be a Marvel villain or something, and like, and I think
we're going to cast you after this, so.
Love it. But like the thing with villains and like people who are considered the bad guys, like I've auditioned for some pretty notorious bad people in history, and also just like bad people in whatever stories. And I always try to like think of it as like, well, what do they want? Because no one thinks they're a bad guy. Everyone always assumes that what they're doing is right. And so like if you are having that moment of like struggle or doubt, or like, again, as long as you're pursuing your objective as a villain, like related to the story and the world that you've built, of course it's going to come off villainous, but that person thinks they're the good guy in the story. Like they think they're the hero. And that's sort of, and I think I this sounds so actory of me, but I think I was reading an interview with like Meryl Streep, and she just said,
I haven't heard of her.
Curious.
Which one?
Who is she? She's she's an up and comer, in the industry. I think she may have been nominated for a little award here or there.
Award. I think she's going to be the next O'Mary.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. She's going in after Bowen. Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, she said just stay curious, and I think as long as you, the person, are curious and asking questions about their history and like what they want and what's their deepest desire, like then you really get a clearer sense of how to portray this person.
Yeah, and I think that's where I've been struggling, is because when I try to get a sense of who a character is or who an NPC or villain is, I usually try and assign some real world person or someone I know, or traits of someone that I know. And then it's usually, if it's that villain, it's usually someone I already don't like. So then it becomes this idea of like,
that is your,
that it doesn't serve me. Like I can understand logically, like, yes, Thorpe is a villain. He wants to survive by any means necessary, but not just survive. He wants to be the richest, most powerful, protected person in Waterdeep. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to maintain that.
Yeah.
And that's not an altruistic goal from my perspective, but I can understand why he wants to do it. So it was funny because I've encountered this every once in a while where I bring conflict through a character to one of my players at the table and they push back. And I'm learning to not take it personally because I'm like, oh my God, they're being so mean to me. I'm like, no, that's their character. Like they're being mean to the asshole that I'm being. Like, and I go back to springing Alexis on you, who is now essentially.
I had no idea who she was at first.
Exactly, and I felt bad because I'm like, here's this like deep lore character from like way back pre-stream, who certain characters or certain players like Antonio will be like, what's she doing?
Yeah.
She's still here. Like they hate her, and I understand why they hate her, but she's essentially, like, for lack of a better term, Maura's mother-in-law now that she's dating her son.
Yes.
But I wanted to bring this woman who I've seen as this survivor. Like, I love the more complicated characters, and that's why I love Maura in this dynamic, because she is desperate. I feel as though you're playing her as though she's desperately looking for some sort of home and belonging, and she's finding smatterings of it. And the first mother figure that she finds that is like of some authority and protectiveness holds a knife to her throat.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, sorry to throw this on you, but this is what this character would do because of your connection to the Morrigan.
Right.
But Alexis, I love dearly because she is she's kind of like the worst case scenario of a mama bear. She's like, I will do anything for my child. I will do anything to survive. We will, if the world burns, we will be the last two there. Like, that is what's in her mind, because that's what she had to do to survive. But knowing that, but I want to get into kind of like the creation of Maura specifically, and how you see her in this world that has been like growing and changing and has existed before she came in. Like, because I want to make sure that like you have as much of a mark in this world as every other character or every other player, and they shouldn't have more of it or more importance just because they've been there longer. Like, I want everyone to feel as if they're part of it. So that is one thing I want to apologize for, is throwing such a lore-heavy character at you. But it felt like a good way to like pull you into the narrative on a very easy way. But where did Maura come from, and how does she fit in?
To what you just said as well, I also think it also fits like with the fact that like I'm also sort of discovering the sorcery of it all for a level 9 sorcerer. Maura has been a loner. Like the way that the way that I sort of crafted her, like she's been a loner for ever since her parents in the story that I created were murdered, essentially, unjustly. And she's been solo. She is a guide, so she has been sort of helping people here and there at a cost for her, for her time in Faerun, and she hasn't encountered like a group of people that she's been with consistently. So meeting these random people doesn't necessarily feel out of place for her because she really is. This is the first time she's had a foundation of people consistently. That she hasn't necessarily wanted anything from. A story beat that I think I didn't get to explore. There's no need to do it now, but just meeting these people, I wanted to, take a part of their hair or something too, because Maura is she doesn't trust people very easily because of how she was sort of duped by the Morrigan. So the folks that she's sort of given safe passage through all of these sort of like the cursed lands, basically, she'll take something from them. So if they come back and try to harm her, she knows that they're going to come back and then she's going to, fuck them up, basically. I think we're past 10 minutes, so I can say that, so leave me out. So like meeting all these new people doesn't seem out of character for her. And I think though with Alexis, I could see a future where they get along. I think they have more in common than they realize.
Yes.
Because they're both, yeah.
I can sense that. And I think what I've been noticing is there is a sensitivity to Maura that I wasn't expecting for someone who had been through so much tragedy in her backstory that you're still willing to look at the Warforged that 10 is completely written off at this point, being like, no, we need to treat them with respect and kindness. And I'm like, oh, now I'm seeing who this character is a little bit more, where it's like, you have this pain that you went through and you don't want other people to go through said pain, even if they may not be fully alive, ?
Right.
And it's nice to see that conflict at the table, only in so much where that's where 10 started. He was very much a person of the people. And to see Austin's journey with 10 as being a little bit more cynical, it's a nice little mirror that you've done. I don't think you even knew that you were doing it intentionally. To show this is kind of how he would have reacted in session 1 if he had found out. He would have tried to protect them. But going through that, I'm like, oh, is Maura going down a path of corruption because she's hanging out with the bad kids in Baldur's Gate?
I think it's actually sort of the opposite. I feel like Maura probably started out. I mean, because also when we've explored when she talks to Dristan and when he stumbles over his words, I think that, and her horns shrink so minusculely. It's not going to be they're not going to go away completely, I don't think. But she started out with all of that corrupted magic and probably very, very cynical towards the world, because in that moment she had just been completely duped. Again, I've used that word a couple of times, but by the Morgan, she was tricked. And then she's gone, and now she's this, hexblood that she probably doesn't even fully understand what that means. But her core is, I very lawful good, because of who her father was. And so I think that is something that I've again sort of discovered but enjoyed developing, because I think I always knew that even though she's a quote unquote witch, she really has a deep sense of morality in how she moves through the world.
And I can see that in you. In the time that I've gotten to know you, especially over the internet, you do have a very strong sense of what is right and what is wrong. I feel as though people think it's hard to maintain a sense of morality, a clear good and bad, even though it can be very murky in this day and age. You know what you stand for, and I think that's a harder thing for a lot of people to do because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing or upsetting the wrong people. And I was just wondering kind of where that's, I mean, for anyone who follows Brad on the internet, he's very clear about his partisan views on a lot of things, which again, as a queer person, it's hello, look at where we are in the world, and it's very clear to see where our space should be based on what we've gone through. But where did that like activist blood come from? Where did that like heat come from? I mean, was it always there? Or because I know that like when we talk about activation, I'm very much, I was the infographics boy, you know, during Trump's first term, because I was like, what else do I do? And then it's like learning like how else I can show up in the world. But where did that come from for you?
I think it's the learning thing, because I'm a child of parents that, as I grew up, like I believe that they were both Republican, and then my mom is, a Democrat now. I think Obama was the first Democrat that she voted for, but of course we're like a child of our parents. So I grew up sort of and living in like a Midwestern suburb of Chicago. So take with that information what you will, but like that's the environment that I was raised in. And then, going to college and then graduating during the Great Recession and like seeing all of these things sort of tumble for millennials. Like we've really been our futures have been kind of destroyed and dismantled.
Knocked around. We've been knocked around.
Yeah, it's been rough. And so I think living as an adult and learning, as you said, like I've made mistakes. I've said things that have really offended people. And I think, and they've had the courage to then talk to me about it, which is I think where some of this fire comes from, because a lot of the things that I'm talking about are things that I've also talked about with people who are really close to me and have direct contact or direct relation to whatever the subject matter is. So I think that because I really do try to take the time to learn a lot about what I'm posting, and yes, of course I post infographics, and of course I post, X, Y, or Z, but then, if someone has a discussion with me about, well, why are you posting? I had someone say that you hate boomers. And I said, I don't hate boomers. I said, but, this is did you know that the FICO score only was created at the end of the 80s? And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, that's why you guys could buy all this stuff. And we have credit scores now. So it's like, so I've got the info to back it up,
It's frustrating because I feel like I'm having that consistent battle with my parents sometimes. And I know that it all comes from a place of love. And I know it's all coming from a place of, hey, we just want the best for you. And it's hard to sometimes communicate with people from a different generation who all they hear is, well, this is why you're terrible. And this is why you made my life a living hell. And it's like, well, no, let's cut the BS and get to the reality of the situation. We have to understand what's really happening here. And if you're just not even going to be on the same page, even though I present facts, then we're not going to really have a discussion. And I think as much as I appreciate your fire behind this, I'll admit, as like a man who's almost 40, I'm tired. And I know that it's like I have a lot of privilege in being able to say that, and that I can choose not to show up in certain ways. But it is tiring to try and convince people, especially people that are in my immediate orbit sometimes, what is right. And it's like not in a moral, like I'm better than you, but I'm like basic human decency that is just like, I wouldn't want to be treated that way. So why would I treat anyone that way? And why can't you apply that to someone else?
I think that that's a really good kind of way to frame it, though, is that like the people that you care about, because like, and you can also take like what I've learned, because it is super overwhelming. Like there's so many different groups that are being, marginalized doesn't even cover it. Like there are people literally being killed, and there's so many different things to address and worry about. But like if you focus on just like one thing that you really care about, like that's some of the best advice that I've gotten. Like I feel like I have the bandwidth to have a lot of different causes at sort of like the forefront of my mind and to discuss and to be ready to discuss. But like, you can't expect everyone to do that. So like if your thing is trying to think of one that would be sort of like super general, like LGBTQ rights, like that would be like, if that's going to be your cause, then you become the expert on that cause, and then you can share that information, and then you don't have to feel so obligated. The only thing that frustrates me in today's sort of like sphere of influence are folks who have huge platforms and don't mention anything. Like I'm obviously like a firebrand. Like I say things that are very incendiary towards the current administration and things that, probably I shouldn't say, for fear of, I'm not scared of the FBI, but, for fear of that. But But like I'm comfortable being super, super inflammatory with a lot of my critiques of the administration. But there are some folks who aren't, because they are really concerned about their livelihoods or XYZ. But to say nothing, that is the only thing that truly like pisses me off, because I'm like, you got to say something.
The complacency in it, and even if you're just saying it to the like, I recognize the platform that this could have, and being like, hey, I think it's very clear. Even though we don't state it, it's very clear. Trans rights are human rights. Black Lives Matter. Human rights extend to immigrants and people who are not here, quote unquote, legally. It's just like all the basic stuff is there, and it's like you have to kind of live that truth. And so this is where I take that to heart, in so much of trying to, in my office job, in my day job, in my day drag. I'm very blessed to be surrounded by a lot of open-minded people, a lot of just like people who accept me for being a queer man. They know that I have a husband, and they, treat me with the respect that I deserve, just like I do to them. But it's interesting in encountering people of different backgrounds, only in so much of being like, but you're living a very, and this is going to sound like derogatory, but you're living a very straight lifestyle, so you don't understand a lot of these things. So I remember having this discussion with one of my coworkers, because our office was having a blood drive, and they were all going, and they were like, oh, we should all go to give blood. And then I work for a hospital, so it was like very normal. Like, we should all give blood, and then, get coffee or snacks afterwards. And I was like, well, I can't go. And they're like, oh, why? And then I explained, this was like, I know that they've adjusted the blood giving policy, but
but gay men couldn't,
but I was just, I explained
a very long time.
And there was this one girl who was probably about 10 years younger than me. She's like, that's a thing? And I was like, yeah, it's a thing. And it's like, it's not her fault for not knowing this. And it doesn't affect her in any way. But I feel like those are those small moments when we talk about being tired. It's like, well, I could just choose not to say anything and not rock the boat. But I said it in such a way where she could hear it, she could take it in and recognize it, that maybe just a little bit, that world's a little bit different for Mike. And that he can't just participate in this what could have been a very fun group activity for me and my team. It just disrupted it a little bit. And then she could go home and talk about it to someone else, being like,
exactly,
I didn't know that this was a thing. So it's all about choosing when to say things sometimes too.
And how to say things. It's not
how to say things, who to say it to.
Exactly. It's less about like when. For me, it's more about like just like how. But, like, we are living in a world that's very polarized. And, sadly, there are a lot of people who, we just won't reach. And that also having, as they say in therapy, like the radical acceptance of it all. And it's like, you also, that's, I think, where you can feel that fatigue, is where, you're constantly going up against a wall. And there are people in my family who I can't really talk to anymore, because I just know that they won't see eye to eye. And sometimes if I do interact with them, they'll use the thing of like, well, this, in the past we've done X, Y, or Z, but like past behavior doesn't, excuse current behavior. So,
exactly.
There's just things that you have to work through and understand when to do that and how to do that, and also when to just sort of pivot.
Yeah, I believe heavily in the idea of protecting your energy, because it's finite. You only have a certain amount during the day. I've played enough farming sims to know that once 2 a.m. hits and you're outside, you're going to lose half your energy the next day. So you have to conserve it. But my energy needs to go towards the people that deserve my energy. And that's why I love playing D&D, because I want to give my energy to that. And if I can give my energy to that and give you guys even a fantasy world in which you can confront a very obvious mustache twirling villain, and find that satisfaction in kind of how you navigate that, even in a fantasy world, that's a good thing for me. And it's just, I like to be able to provide that. And I think you guys provide it in return by participating at the very least.
Well, and also, like, to live joyfully is a huge act of resistance in and of itself. So, like,
Agreed.
to even have this space where, whether we talk about actual political things in this moment or not, the fact that we are a group of queer men playing D&D, publicly having fun, enjoying our time together, that is a huge rebellion against the current administration. So it doesn't even have to be political. We don't have to make it political because it already is political.
Yeah.
So, and that's the root of it all. That's the thing to celebrate, you know?
Yeah. And I appreciate how gung-ho everyone's been about this as we grow, and this is my 20th Tavern Talk, so thank you for being one of the big ones at this point. But
just like the Real Housewives, they had their 20th reunion this year too. Wow, I love it.
Now that is something I discovered about you, what I didn't expect is you're a big Housewives fan.
I love the Housewives. You wouldn't think so with all of this, but no, I love the Housewives.
So I need you. What is your top ranking? Like, you'll always go back to it franchise.
New York. It's New York or nothing. Like it's got to be New York. I love New York.
Scary Island.
Seasons are Scary Island. Go to sleep. Like, come on. Like, New York is so iconic. I've met, and obviously living in New York, like I've met a few of them, and they're just all lovely. You know, they're really. It's just a great franchise. I think it really shows New York in like a cool little time capsule of what it was in the early 2000s, or I guess it was mid to late 2000s. I think it was like 2008 or 9 when it first premiered or whatever. But it's just great. I love New York.
Yeah. And is there any other, like, outside of, or just any housewife in general, who do you relate to most, and which one does Maura relate to most?
Okay, well, the Maura one's gonna be tough because I feel, well, actually maybe not. So the one that I relate to the most is Erika Jayne. Love Erika Jayne so much. She's a survivor to me, and Luann. I love Luann as well. The two of them are like my top tier girlies. And then there was a housewife on Beverly Hills. I think it was season 4. Carlton, yes. I was like, that would be Maura. Like, absolutely. Yes. That would absolutely be Maura for sure.
She's one of my top ones, and I gravitate towards these women, or just like any character that is a one-shot, one-off, like
one-hit wonder.
Who is that? Why do you care about them? Why are they important? And like, that's the point. Is like, we didn't get enough, and then I can fill in all the blanks about who this is. But also, she's a kooky woman. It's just like, yes, I want to see a witch on my reality TV shows, please.
Give me she had more a very hot husband, if I remember right. Wasn't her husband like very sexy? Yeah.
I love those clips. She's like, I only practice light magic. I never practice dark. I did practice dark back in the day, and I'll never do it again. I have 2 girls.
I know. Yes.
And I'm just like, to say that with such conviction and like believing it. I'm like, okay, go off. Yes. I love that. Do you want to join our D&D table? Because it feels like you could get really into a lot of weird stuff.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it. And I'm a little spooky and witchy as well. So like, I've got the tarot cards. I've got my occult tarot cards. I've got, I have actually like magic tattoos. So I'm into that too. Carlton and I would probably get along. So I need to look into her more.
I've been, Antonio, who plays Agnes, is very much into the tarot witchy stuff, along with my husband. I never, like, as being a fantasy nerd and sci-fi nerd, I never leaned into like the magic side of things. I had cousins, female cousins, like growing up when The Craft came out, that was like the movie that like everyone believed they could have been witches. And I didn't like bite the apple, for lack of a better term, back in the day, but I've been getting into tarot a little bit more, which is just so silly to me because like I had my cards read in the past and I was like, okay, whatever. But I remember my friend Troy gave me a reading, and he gave me the perspective. He's just like, look, you can believe it if you want. It can be the most magical universe communicating thing in the world, or you could take it this way. These cards are going to come out, and they're going to represent something. This is like how the deck is made. And I'm going to tell you what it represents. Now, it's up to you to connect it with something in your life. And it's not about saying it's going to give you the answers. You already have the answers. You just, it's making you kind of narrow it down to a belief of being like, well, this is what's currently in your life right now. And then the minute I realized, like, oh, this is just therapy. This is just therapy with colorful cards and magic.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it gets in the way where I'm like, oh, I wasn't thinking about that. That's always, it was top of my mind. Or was like this thing in the back of my mind of being like really stressed about it. And then this card was like a tower upright and devastation's coming. And I'm like, I knew it. that thing at work is stressing me out, and that's what I have to worry about right now.
And it helps clarify your decision making. I think like that's it's I wouldn't say, I mean, I don't like religion in general, but I would say that like it's a spirituality, and I think that that is I would say I'm very spiritual in that sense, and that does help you connect to your own spirituality of like being a human. Like we're spiritual beings. We came from the universe. We're going to go back to the universe. It's a way to connect to that, and I think to help make, and if something doesn't feel aligned with your presence and with your spirit, it's sort of a way to help you uncover that. You know, it's like, okay, because you're gonna make the connection that your brain kind of already, or your subconscious already wants to make, and it's just sort of like, okay, here it is. This is the answer that you are already looking for, and that, as you just said, you already know. You already know the answer to this.
You already know the answer. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about it, is that I needed these silly little cards to help me realize what I already knew, which is just like, oh God, the religious and generational trauma of just being raised Catholic and being gay. And just like, I have so many neural pathways that have just been rerouted because I just don't want to deal with the stress of it all or the anxiety of it all. So I disassociate. I go play video games. I play D&D. You know, it's tough to confront those things. And I think that's why it's so refreshing to kind of live an authentic queer lifestyle, because you get put in spheres and groups of people who are more willing to think more esoterically, use crystals or cards or whatever to solve their problems, but then just to be open to be like, hey, that's not what's going to work for me right now. I actually need Lexapro to go to therapy. But as long as we're helping each other get to that better version of ourselves, that improved version of ourselves, that healthy version of ourselves, then pull out a tarot card. Hey, I'll do it too. And it's fun to also kind of feel like a little bit of a witch sometimes. So
and like as we get older, like that's another thing. Like, you know, the whole idea of aging. Like the only thing I dislike about it is the fact that my body just doesn't heal as fast as it does. But like the mental clarity that you gain with every year of life that you're given, that's really the gift. Like and I think that's part of it. Like why you're discovering like all these people being open to X, Y, or Z. It's like, oh, it's because like I don't care as much. Like I want to be authentically myself, and so I'm given more and more of that the longer and longer time that you have. You know, being alive.
Speaking of being authentically yourself, or at least Maura being authentically herself, which Broadway show would she be cast on, and which character?
I mean, come on, it's got to be Wicked. Like it's gotta be Wicked.
I was going to say Sweeney Todd, maybe.
It could be Sweeney Todd, but see, Sweeney himself is like I mean, I guess Maura is pretty tortured too. Like, but I don't see Maura going like the revenge route. I see Maura also aligning with Brad, aligning with the strong, lawful good intentions. Because it really, it feels very Wicked to me, and she's a witch.
Yes.
So now
we have to get her a real broom. Then I'll work on it.
We could get that'd be cute. Wait, is there a way to sort of like, you know, transfer the powers from her staff into a broom, and then she can fly?
We'll see. No, because it's just the idea of, I've always loved the idea, and I did this little moment. It was a little bit of a fan thing for me of when I had that table, the Southern Rooter Tutors. All of you could sing or at least carry a note. And it was just like, oh, that one moment where we got to like harmonize just to get past a villain. I really want to create a table that is all Broadway people or all like musical theater people, and say the only rule is no one can be a bard. That's the only rule.
That's fair.
And so it's just the idea that they're all like failed bards or they can't get away. And I'm just like, okay, I can say this because I love the idea, again, of getting people together who have the ability to improv, the ability to say yes, and adopt a new tool and be like, I'm ready to look like a fool. I'm ready to
absolutely
adopt a character. And that's what gets me excited at a table, when I'm like, oh, I get to pick this character apart. I get to play with this little doll that someone knows very well, and I get to throw everything I want at it. So it helps me to think like, okay, if Maura had her choice, if she was living in the real world, would she be on Broadway? And if she was, what character would she play? And so it's like, what, Elphaba or Glinda?
It's fully Elphaba. Also, fun fact, I to get into NYU, I sang Defying Gravity. And and I got in. So, so Wicked is in my blood, and it's also in Maura's blood for sure.
Yes,
For
it's
sure.
definitely a special medium. The book is very different, and we will not be going
It's
into.
great. Yeah, we won't go into it, but it's great too. If you haven't, you've read it, obviously.
Yeah.
But
so
good.
We'll talk about, maybe that's where Maura got her antlers, is like
Sure.
someone had fun at the wizarding school.
Yeah, I think it's not called the Ozdust Ballroom, I don't think, in the book.
No.
It's called something else, but they have, they fully have like an orgy, but that's...
I was going to ask about Maura as like a character design, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but she has antlers coming out of her neck, and we've established like, this is kind of like, this is a like a punishment or like a curse that's been bestowed upon her. But with the antlers, I mean, we're calling them antlers, right? But is that what you?
They're like basically
them?
Antlers or horns, or they're essentially just I would say horns or antlers, that because they look like antlers.
Yeah, but my question is, why the neck? And like, I'm not criticizing it. It's just like, it feels so like, it's so disturbing in a way, in such a good way.
It's more like the base of her skull, so sort of like where the head and the neck connect. But like, it is her neck, like that's the cervical spine, so like it's like right there. But yeah, it just seems, because when you think of horns from like a demon or from like tiefling, they're very sort of like front of the head focused. And something specific about Hexbloods when I was building the character was that they said it starts from the back of the head, so it would seem it'd be sprouting up from the neck in some way. And with my design, I was also with Calvin, when I was designing sort of like the image of her, I was very inspired by Anne Hathaway's costume design in Mother Mary. So like that also
that was
a big inspiration
going on at the time.
Yes, which was a great movie. It didn't get very good reviews, but I really liked it. But yeah, so to have her sort of horns or antlers be almost like a halo as well was like part of the original design inspiration, because I think it leads to the duality of like the good and evil of it all.
I mean, the reason I ask, and is mostly because I ask my tiefling players this, and now you're an honorary tiefling because of you have horns. How does she sleep at night? Literally, how does she sleep? Because the horns are coming out of the back of her neck.
Yeah, like, I mean, she might have to sleep. I've actually never thought of this, but like, I guess maybe she'll have to sleep in some sort of seated position, or like some type of, it can't be face down because she'll suffocate, but there must be some type of neck pillow that she has where she can sort of like like her neck can rest, and then her horns are not like a Tempur-Pedic pillow or something.
We'll find some way to help Maura sleep at night, because
exactly.
Or maybe she sleeps like a bat. She just sleeps upside down.
Maybe
from the ceiling. This is like I don't know why I really like, in any fantasy medium, whether it's Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, whatever, I want to know what the general populace is doing. I want to know how things are working behind the scenes, and I want to go into people's bedrooms and be like, be a fly on the wall and be like, how are you doing that? What's going on here? It's not a requirement.
Such a good question
for you to know, but it's like, it helps me to be like, oh, she's pale. She's probably got bloodshot eyes, and she's like, maybe she's not sleeping well at night, and she's been struggling with like every bit that grows, she has to sleep in a slightly more uncomfortable position. And
it's got to be something under her neck. It's got to be.
Yeah. And if that's the case, it's like, it's a testament to her kindness that much more, because I am not happy when I don't get enough sleep.
Yes. So that's such a funny and brilliant question, because that's also the stuff that like you forget to create and think about when you're designing a character. Like, you think about all these big story beats and story arcs, but you literally do forget, like, how do they drink coffee in the morning? How do they go to the bathroom if they have claws? Like, what do they do? Like, how do they wipe their ass? Like,
think about that, because it's important. They're real people, and they deserve respect and kindness.
Yes, that's so true.
Well, as we get close to the end, I just had this is when I typically have like the non-player people create a character to live in the world, but since you already have one and you're play at the table, this is going to be your freedom to kind of critique anything that I've been doing as your DM at this point, or anything you'd like to see differently or change, because I'm learning as well, and I want to make sure that this is a safe, welcoming table for you, because it's a power fantasy, but also should be a
Oh
safe
my
space.
God. There's no, I can't. I literally like, I can't think of any criticism. What I can say is what I enjoy is when you ask us to like roll for things. Like that's really, I think sometimes that's one of the criticisms that I think some of the Dimension 20 DMs get is that they've been accused of like leading their party, but like you have to do that to a certain degree. And that's sort of, I think, your way to avoid that criticism of like, oh, well, like clearly you want us to go to this tower. It's sort of like, you know, if you ask us to roll for something, that's how you determine like whether it's going to go like good or bad. And I guess it means a little bit more work for you because you have to create that sort of tree, that like web of, you know, what have you. But
I've
there's no
learned.
criticism. I love it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I've for DM tip, I typically give my players 3 choices. It's like I get to the point where it's like these are the 3 options that they have, and I present it to them and just be like, okay, if you take this path, I know which direction you're going to go. And sometimes, hint, hint, all 3 options lead to the same space.
Right.
They always
Well,
lead
that too.
yeah.
Yes. It's because like it's less about like because the thing with D&D for me is like there's an overarching story. Like there's things like now our stories we got to find the Viviker and we have to stop the ambering. So like that's like point A to point B. But then like yeah, there are fun things that you want us to do. It's less about like are we gonna make the right decision to get us to battle this giant worm? You know, so it's sort of like okay, which path are they going to take to get to the giant worm? All 3 are going to be fun. Which one are we going to go to? You know, which path are we going to take to get there? Because it's like it's a game. Like we're having fun, and you're creating the world, and you're creating the pathway that we get there. But like ultimately, it's like we're all just having fun playing a game.
Yeah. Well, then I guess the final question is, what do you want to accomplish as Maura? Like, where do you see her now versus where you want to see her? What's her final I've done adventuring now that I've accomplished everything.
I mean, the big question that I have, and that I sort of have an idea of what her answer would be and like how her character would evolve, but it's be like, what happens when she breaks this curse? If she breaks this curse, like, does she choose to remain a hexblood? You know, is that an option? Does she choose to become an artificer? And then I have a multi-class. It's just sort of like, I don't know what her story, I don't know how her story ends. And that's the biggest question is like, when that curse is gone, how does she move forward in the world, or does she die? You know, like does she join her family in the afterlife? Like there's, you know,
is she feeling any sort of like trepidation knowing that she doesn't know what that answer is? Is she, and despite still moving forward, is she trying to find answers right now? Or is she just trying to help people?
A bit of both. I mean, I think she's trying to find answers, but I think like she's gotten caught up in the helping of the Amber situation because I feel like her past, her sole purpose was to like find the Morrigan and that was it. And now she's been presented with so many other options and ways to sort of slight the Morrigan in a way because she hates her, you know, or hates that entity. And to the opportunity to sort of foil their plans, I think she probably enjoys. And so she's been presented with a world that I don't think she ever saw for herself. And I do think she's enjoying going along this journey and having to make these choices to help people. But yeah, I think that like she had the goal of getting rid of the curse and then just dealing with the consequences or what. And now it's like, what does it look like? What does my life look like after? Like what's pre-curse and then post-curse, you know?
Well, you're the one that I think, I'm trying to think through all the characters right now. I mean, Andy has a romance. It feels very casual, a romance. And Zephyral has like a burgeoning kind of boyfriend romance. And I'd say, yeah. And then Tom has his flings. But yeah, sure. I feel like you have this very like you and Zephyral have very similar like boyfriend situations where it's like, hey, like we're new and this is fun and this is cute and I don't know where this is going to lead. The world might end, but I still want to keep being together. And Dristan is I made Malik I took because I was like, I wanted someone's brother to be dating someone else in another town. And it was like, Des gave me his brother, and I didn't tell him I was using that. So I was like, great, here's these two characters connected. I always wanted to make that happen. But with Dristan, he was, again, deep lore from back on another campaign where I get to dangle him and Alexis and Elowin kind of in front of some of my other players, be like, they exist and they're living their lives and you get to experience that. But the torture is you're playing different characters and they don't know who Dristan is and they don't know who Alexis is and they can't come in and just like be angry. But that's where I'm like, I want to encourage you guys to be able to interact with those characters or sometimes play new characters. Because it's like, it's fun. I'm sure you have 10,000 characters in your backlog that you want to play.
Yeah, I've got plenty. And they're all, ironically, they're all spellcasters, but I've never been playing at level 9. So like, I should probably, like, I need to explore probably some type of barbarian next, I feel.
I mean, don't knock fighter. Fighter, I like. Fighter and monk, they get slept on.
Absolutely.
So take a look.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Brad, for joining me on Tavern Talk. It has been a blast getting to know you better. And I'm sure I'm going to get to know you better even more as we play together. Anything else before we sign off? Where can people find you?
You can, I don't really use X anymore, but you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Bradford_AG. That's where you can find me on Insta.
Awesome. Well, that's where I'll be following you. And shout out to you because you're always a consistent reposter of our Goblin Guys stuff. So gold star to you. You get DM inspiration for that.
Yes, I'm going to hold you to that the next time we're at the table.
Because I won't remember. Thank you again. Have a lovely evening and enjoy Chicago.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.